afternoon. My name is Helena. I will be conducting our training today. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to help you with your son's program. Let's go over our agenda for today and some concepts and techniques. To start, we have created a program to assist you in teaching Joey how to put on his shoes. This program was created using the principles of applied behavioral analysis, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit. Which has been shown to be effective teaching strategy for children with an autism spectrum disorder. Our training today was also created using the behavioral skills training technique, which includes portions of instruction, modeling, rehearsal, and feedback. Okay. So if you have any questions or need clarification on anything at any time, please feel free to do so. Okay. So first we're going to go over the concepts of prompting and reinforcement. Then we'll go over the skill acquisition program for Joey's program and the corresponding procedural checklist. I'll ask you some questions as we go to ensure your understanding of the content and concepts. And then I will model for you what this process will look like. Then I'll have you demonstrate it back to me and I'll give you some feedback on that. Perfect. Sounds good? Alright, so to start, we'll give some context to what we're doing here. So applied behavioral analysis is the process of systematically applying interventions based upon the principles of learning theory to improve socially significant behaviors in a meaningful way. So basically, we want to increase the behaviors that we want to see and decrease the behaviors that we don't want to see so that Joey has a more positive time. Perfect. Alright, so some of the main things that we use in our ABA techniques are prompting and reinforcement. So prompting is our cues to help someone understand when it's time to begin a task and to stop a task.
Like classical conditioning?
Yeah, exactly. So we use prompts when teaching new skills and fade them out as soon as we can to let the natural consequences of the behavior reinforce the skill. So we use, in this case, for Joey's program, we're using most to least prompting. So we start at the highest level of prompting that Joey will respond to and slowly fade down until he's independent in the skill. Perfect. So our hierarchy looks like a full physical prompt, which would be you physically manipulating him to get the behavior. Then we would move down to a partial physical prompt, which is a light nudge or guidance here and there, but you're not physically moving him the whole time. Then we move down to a procedural verbal prompt, so giving him the step-by-step instruction, undo your straps, lift the tongue, put your toes in.
For motor skill development.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Then we would move to a questioning verbal prompt if that works well for Joey. So you can ask him, what step are you forgetting? Or what do you do next? Then we would move down to gestural prompts, so pointing or, gesturing at the thing that you want him to do. And then we would move down to independent. Perfect. All right. So the other thing that we do is we use reinforcers, and reinforcement is providing or removing something from your child because he has engaged in a particular behavior. So we like to use things that are highly motivating, but that he doesn't have access to all the time so that he's not satiated by the thing. Okay. So for example, if he likes Thomas the Train and he's able to play with Thomas the Train all the time, that may not be motivating enough long term to use as a reinforcer. Versus a toy that maybe he doesn't have access to all the time, or a little treat like an M&M that would be highly motivating, but he won't get bored of. Okay. Make sense? Alright, so the purpose of us being here today is his Putting On Shoes training program, which has been implemented at your request to improve his independence and integration as preparation for school and community programming. Putting on shoes, of course, is a self-help skill that will set up Joey for success as he begins gaining independence in his day-to-day life. And, of course, he will act as the mediator or the person that is conducting the program in the family home. Okay. Our learning objective would be that when asked, put on shoes, Joey will put on his shoes without assistance, tying laces is not required, with about an 80% accuracy or better over 4 consecutive teaching sessions. So that may look like 4 teaching sessions pretty close together, or it may be spread out, depending on what you choose to do. Make sense? All right. Am I going too fast? Are you okay? No? All right. Perfect. let's move on to our skill acquisition program, which is basically just outlining the steps of the program we've developed for Joey. So it lists this prompting hierarchy that we discussed and all of the materials that you would need. This is the instruction that we would be giving to Joey. Put on shoes. It's nice, clear, simple instruction that tells him exactly what he needs to do. So things that you may need to consider are using differential reinforcement. So differential reinforcement means that we're only reinforcing the behaviors that we want to see. So if he does something in the wrong order or whatever, or it doesn't do the skill correctly, then we don't reinforce that. We would want him to sit down and just be beside him but slightly behind him so that you can avoid any unexpected movements of his legs, and that you're close enough to help when he needs it. So with our data collection here outlined, we do have this data collection sheet. So it's really, really easy to use. The numbers along the side here are the training date or training session that you're doing. So if he does it completely independent, that would be unprompted, and you would just put a plus sign there. If he requires prompts, you would just use the little code for that prompting. So a full physical prompt would be an FP, partial physical, PP, and so on. And you just put whatever prompt level you used in here.
From the prompting hierarchy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it is outlined down here too as well if you need that, if you don't have your skill acquisition plan with you.
So this is after I asked him, put on your shoes.
Yeah, so
just see how well he does, and then just, okay. Cool.
Exactly. And it's super important that we take data to, one, make sure that the program's working, because if it's not, we can change it and make it more effective. We wouldn't want him to get frustrated. And it shows that he's actually making the strides that we want to see so that we can move on to the next step of the plan.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, so we're going to work on it for a minimum of 10 trials. It may take longer, it may take less time. It's different for every child. We just want to do it for at least that much time. All right. So the error correction procedure is outlined here. Essentially, if he is about to make an error, you're just going to represent the instruction, put on shoes, and then prompt to the level that he will respond to. Okay. So let's say you got down to a gestural prompt and he makes an error. You would re-administer, put on shoes, and then move up to maybe a higher level, maybe a partial physical.
Just not overwhelming, right?
Exactly, exactly. And we want to make sure that he's not beginning to err in the middle of training, because then he's learning those bad habits again, right? Yeah. All right. So once he's been able to independently do it 80 to 100% of the time across 4 consecutive trials, then we would move on to the next step of the process.
Awesome.
All right. All right. And this is for generalization and maintenance. Okay. So the idea with generalization is that you want to make sure that he understands how to do the skill in more than one area. Okay. So if you are rewarding putting on shoes at home, you want to make sure that he knows to do the same skill at, let's say, Grandma and Grandpa's house or the babysitter's house or preschool or wherever he is, right?
Same skill, different locations.
Exactly. And with maintenance, you want to make sure that he is able to continue this skill for a long period of time. And with generalization, going back to our prompting and reinforcement, you want to make sure that those things are things that we can fade down eventually so that the natural consequence or the natural reinforcement of the skill is what's motivating him to do it. So let's say you are motivating with or reinforcing with M&Ms at home, but Grandma and Grandpa don't know to do that. Yeah. He, of course, isn't going to want to do it at Grandma and Grandpa's because he's not getting rewarded. Yes. So eventually we want the action of putting on the shoes and then going to be able to go outside or go to the store to be the natural consequence of the behavior.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So let's go over our our checklist. That's the last part of the talking.
Okay.
And then I'll get to show you exactly what we're going to be doing. Then you'll demonstrate, and then I'll give you some feedback.
Perfect.
All right. So our performance checklist essentially is the step-by-steps on how you would perform the skills to teach him how to put on his shoes.
So I have to go through every one of these 10 steps before beginning the activity?
Well, these are as you go.
Okay.
So for example, our first step is have a distraction-free area.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not always possible, but for beginning to teach a skill, it's better to make sure that he's not distracted by anything.
Sure.
So let's say if shoes are kept in the front hall and there's usually a lot of shoes, maybe try to have it organized most of the time so that it's not overwhelming to him as he's learning the skill.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So again, have your materials ready. And actually, let's get into those materials now. So we would, of course, have our shoes and our data sheet, maybe our skill acquisition program, and performance checklist, because that would make it easier for you. We also have some visuals that I've brought for you. So this is a visual to help Joey learn how to put his shoes in the correct order. So by matching up the line of the shoe, or maybe it's easier for him to discriminate by the shape of the toes. This will help him which shoe is which. So you can just set it on the floor and have him line up his shoes. Then we also have a visual schedule that you may choose to have up in the area that just shows him what the steps are without a lot of words and gunk that he wouldn't necessarily understand anyways.
Yeah.
Alright, so those are things that you're more than welcome to keep in use. If they don't work for Joey, that's totally a-okay, but for a lot of children with ASD, those visuals may assist in that process. Alright, so we talked about reinforcers already. Those are our visuals. Excellent. Alright, let's move on. So step number 3, gain the learner's attention. Of course, if someone asks you to do something and you're not ready for it, you're not going to do it. So make sure that he's paying attention to you before you say, "Hey Joey, it's time to put on your shoes." Step number 4, use clear and simple verbal prompt. So again, that is our put on shoes. So then you're going to prompt in the order of task analysis. So our task analysis would be sit on the chair, place your shoes on the floor in the correct order, start with 1, open up the straps, lift the tongue up, put your toes in, pull back on the back, and push your foot in. And then back to the other side. And then prompt as required, using the most to least prompting. And most to least prompting, again, will ensure that he isn't making errors in learning. Sorry, excuse me. All right, on to number 7. See, we're already almost there. Deliver reinforcement for correct responses. And you want to make sure that you're doing this really quickly so that he understands, oh, I put my shoes on, I did a good job, I get a reward for that.
Yeah.
And it's also really important to tell him what he did that you liked when you're reinforcing. So you could say something like, "Hey, great job putting your shoes on, great work." Moving on. So if he makes an error, you would use our correction procedure, which again, you're just going to say, put shoes on, and re-administer whatever prompt level would be most appropriate for him. So again, if you were on gestural, you may go back up to verbal or partial physical.
Yeah.
All right, then you're going to record on the tracking sheet. So this is our discrete trial training sheet. Did you need me to go over that again? Or no? Okay. All right, and then finally administer a trial at the next available opportunity. So you may choose to wait like a couple seconds for him to use his reinforcer and then re-administer, or you may choose to do it when it's next convenient, like when you're going out next. All right, so how are we doing with that?
Perfect.
Good. All right, so I will be using this to evaluate you, but then I'll leave you a blank copy so that you can use it when you're doing the program.
Okay.
All right. So,
Oh, nice.
I promise it gets super easy, and it's really easy to use the same techniques to teach other skills.
Awesome.
Alright, so now that we're done our instructing, let's do our modeling. So we're going to pretend that you are Joey.
Okay.
Alright? Okay. Sorry, I'm going to use my slip-on shoes.
No worries.
Alright. Because I don't have any with straps for adults. Okay, so we have everything ready for you. Okay, so I would say, alright, Joey, time to put on our shoes. Okay, so sit down. Put shoes in right order. Oh, there you go. That's the right order. Okay, open straps. Good. Okay, lift tongue up. Great work. Put your toes in. Good. Pull back and push your foot down. Wow, great work putting your shoe on. Next one. Pull them back. Good. Wow, great work putting your shoes on. I love that. All right, so then you would reinforce. Make sure you're telling them what you like. And then we used a little bit of everything, but the highest level that we did was full physical.
Okay.
So then I would record that on here, and that's one trial done.
Great.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
All right.
It's a lot quicker than it makes it
Oh, yes. Once we get through all the jargon and everything, I promise it's super easy.
Oh, perfect.
All right, do you want to take a turn?
Sure.
All right. So I will be Joey now.
Okay. Alright, Joey, it's time to put on shoes. Alright, so sit down. Alright, match your shoes. Put right on right, left, left. Take it. There you go. Perfect, buddy. Awesome. Alright, can I get you to grab a shoe? Alright, put the shoe on. This foot, this foot. Good. Pull back. Good. Alright, we're going to pull back here. Pull back here. Slip it on. Perfect, buddy. Alright, now we're going to do this one. Alright, put your feet in. Get all the way in, and then pull back, buddy. Awesome, good job, buddy. Here, let's play with some bubbles. Awesome, good job, buddy.
Alright. Great, you did a really great job with that.
Thank you.
The one thing I would say, though, is, again, really make sure that when you're reinforcing at the end that you're saying what he did that you liked. So, specific, great work putting on your shoes.
Oh,
Okay, so you did a really great job with the verbal praise. That's awesome, but you want to be really specific.
Okay.
Okay? And don't be afraid to use a higher prompting hierarchy if you need it. Okay? And of course, you know your child better than I do, so if the verbal works better than the physical, then by all means do that. I just want to remind you.
Okay. Thank you
Okay?
so much.
Alright, so I think you are ready to implement this.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me before we go?
No, I think I'm good for now. Thank you.
Excellent. Alright, so if you do need anything, by all means contact us. We'd be happy to help you, but I think you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alright, thanks.